everyone, I'm Heather.
And I'm Jamie.
And this is the podcast Life in Motion. And we have a special New Year's gift for you.
At the end of season 3, our last season, we did a bonus episode for you because we talk so much about our families and specifically about our husbands. We decided to invite them to the table and let them share their side of the story.
And that was a big mistake.
We decided to hold on to that episode a while and let some emotions kind of calm back down.
Yeah, because Whit wanted to talk to me about the Quirkle game and some other things that had happened and how he felt like he had been unfairly represented in some of my
Brian didn't want to talk
stories.
about any of the things. So anyway, we decided to just let the tensions dissipate, die down.
And you can have some fun with it.
We're ready to share it with you now, so
enjoy.
So I could do a Life in Motion introduction too. Did you know this?
I'd like to
Let's
hear it.
hear it.
Yeah. Welcome to Life in Motion. What did you do yesterday, Brian?
Guess what? I made a counseling appointment.
Oh my gosh. Ouch. Wow.
Low blow. Did I take it too far?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just finished season 2, just for your audience to know.
We just finished season 3.
And I see why people follow you guys. I mean, you're sharing a lot. It's also, I didn't learn anything new. I feel like we talk about all these things, but man, you guys you're laying it out there.
Yeah.
We're honored to be here.
I have not listened to your podcast. I was at the recording for whatever the live thing was for season 3.
Season 1, episode 1, season 3.
No, season 3. It was
I know,
live.
episode 1.
This is what I think is great about that, Whit, is...
And I did listen to the one about the Quirkle game that and Heather's dad.
Good.
I have some thoughts about that.
I bet
one.
you do.
Yeah.
What I think is funny, Heather, I think we've talked about this, but Adam, who records Spirit in Motion with Whit, he was telling me after our episode 1 recording that Whit was texting him during the episode going, when are they going to get started? Adam's like, bro, this is it.
I kept wondering, this feels like all this introduction. At some point, we're going to talk about something, right? Other than just like I took the kids to school or had an argument in the car. Like, that's it?
That's it.
This is the podcast?
That's it. That's it.
Podcast. All right. I guess it works.
Well, guess who was in town this weekend?
Who?
My dad.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I saw him.
I was wondering where this is going.
I was too. I was like,
What are we
that
talking about
dirty
here?
old devil.
Was that a planned visit or did you just pop in?
He just popped
kinda
in.
spontaneous,
It was
yeah.
mostly spontaneous. I knew he was driving across the country, and so he was just like, "Oh, I guess I'll stop in and say hi." So he was here for 2 nights, which was nice. We didn't play
good.
any Quirkle.
Nope.
No.
Fran
Good call.
tried.
Did he really?
Oh, yeah,
my
Fran was
goodness.
trying to get a game going, and nobody said anything. It was-
I love Fran. Just go right to the thing that'll
Stir it
make
up.
everybody uncomfortable. So perfect.
So my dad was in town a month or so ago, and a couple of months ago, and he.
Have you heard this story?
No, I don't
Okay.
think so.
I think you have. But
Really?
I know that he has.
We played a game of Quirkle. We were waiting for.
Yes, I've heard
You
this.
have. We
Yeah.
talked about it. Okay.
We were waiting for Whit and B to come back. They had gone to run an errand, and so I had Elliot. It was my dad's last night in town. I said, "Elliot and Lucy, come and sit down. Play this game with my dad. Let's spend some time together. We don't need to be on electronics tonight or anything."
Forced fun.
Forced fun, which was my first
One of Heather's
mistake.
specialties. Hey, everybody, you're going to have fun by doing what I want you to do.
It's my dad's favorite game, and he's old.
You're trying to
and
serve. I get it.
He's old. He can't really see.
He's elderly and infirm.
So let's play the game that he can see the pieces on, and
Very basic shapes.
Yes.
Very thoughtful.
Very basic shapes.
But
You can't do much, but you can do this.
Shapes and colors. Keep it simple.
he can do it. He can do it. He's got his glasses
Hey,
on.
does your dad?
Your
Hopefully,
dad
your
is
dad
not
does
that-
not listen.
Well, he's not that old.
He's not. No, he's not.
Okay.
But anyway, play this game and have fun. And Elliot and Lou sit down, and they have a bad attitude just right out of the gate.
Imagine
Lucy
why.
doesn't like the game. She doesn't want to play. Elliot's.
This is bringing a whole different perspective with just Whit just chiming in occasionally like, oh, forced fun. I don't imagine why. Go ahead.
And they start playing, and they're playing poorly. Like it's not going well. I don't even remember now exactly how it
They
went.
weren't playing the game quote unquote the right way. We'll get to that. That comes out a lot more in detail in the later part of the story.
But that's beside the point. What the major thing that I noticed in what was happening here was that as they're playing and they're being annoying, they were also being really loud and annoying, just like silly, and you can't even have a conversation because they're being so silly, that my dad and I are responding the exact same way to their behavior. And we are just
Which is
getting
to emanate. Seething
displeasure.
Displeasure. That's
it
just radiates off of you.
But you two are
Like
playing the
like a
game
glow.
seriously to win. They
We're
don't
playing
really
the
care.
game, and we would, I don't really.
Now let's pause here for a second because the way this actually went down was, I get home, I'm sitting in the living room doing who knows what, and Zuzu comes in and says, Mom is really upset or something. Like Zuzu feels like all the family displeasure or whatever. She gets very uncomfortable when there's tension. And so they're playing outside. I'm sitting inside. So she comes in. I'm like, all right, well, let me go kind of try to see what's going on and see if I can help in some way. This is where in the previous episode, Whit comes in with his counselor hat on. Tries to make things better. No. I'm just responding. No, I'm just responding to my dog. Would you rather me have sat there?
You come in with a tone of voice, and
which is what?
A counseling tone, apparently.
I'm trying to help. So I come out there and I hear what's going on. That Lucy and Elliot are being silly, and I'm like, so I address it. So I'm like, guys, knock it off. Play the game. If you're going to play the game. Fine. So. But still, the seething displeasure is still emanating. It continues. And so I just stand there for a few seconds. I try to make a few jokes, try to lighten the mood. It isn't working. So Lucy plays, and she plays 2 Quirkle squares. And if you've never played the game, that's not that many squares to play. And Heather...
I take offense to that. I typically play 2 every round.
You take offense to a lot of things. So Heather, I don't know, sighs something to express that she does not like what Lucy has just done. And so I'm like, what did she do? And Heather's like, she's not even trying. And Lucy's like, what are you talking about? Yes, I did. I'm saving and Heather's like looking over at Lucy's squares, which you're not supposed to do. And she goes, well, you could have played this or that. And Lucy's like, I'm saving that. And I'm like, Heather, you don't get to dictate how she plays the game. Just let her play. And then I pause and I say, who's winning right now? Lucy. Okay, so hold up a second. So you're saying that they're not even trying. They're just putting one square out there and she's winning? That doesn't make any sense. So anyway, I leave. And I'm like, Heather, what are your what is it that you want from them? Because it's not right for you.
Heather, in that moment, do you know what you want? I find when I'm in a stressful situation like that, if you were to say to me, what do you want right now? I don't know.
It's hard to know.
I want to be mad.
It's Heather the maximizer. She wants everything. Everyone bought in, having a good time, playing their hardest.
You could have told him what you wanted.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kicking in.
When I'll tell you who won the game a little later on, then it will be hard to argue that they weren't trying.
We don't need to rehash the whole story.
Yeah, we do, because there were key details that were left out that I think your listeners would really want to know.
That's what the purpose of this episode is. Let's
clear
the air.
I'm actually fine. But, so, yeah, anyway, I try to get Heather to, because this is 22 years of my life, which is, and however long, and then a year before that, so 23 years we've been together, 22 married. And how many times have I been in situations where I don't know what is expected of me? And it's really hard. Like I've told her this before. I'm playing a game I can't win. I don't know what the rules of this game are. Help me. Tell me what it is that you want. And I'm going to try to do that, but I don't even know what I can do right now. So she's displeased, and I'm trying to give the kids a way back to your good side. And this is one big difference between us, and this comes out in family culture and lots of things, is like I can be upset and then move on. Yeah. Just like, okay, that's done, forgiven, done.
Yeah.
But I've learned, and most of the people, God has put me in a family with most of my, like Heather, but a lot of my kids. Fran's the one who does. Fran is cool. Like me and him are easy. I can be upset with him and then be like, this is what I'm upset about. He'll be like, you're right. I'm sorry. Please forgive me.
Move
Good,
on.
great. Moving on. We're good.
Yeah.
No. But like with Lucy, Elliot, Heather, the two youngers, it's hard to tell just yet, but like they just don't.
I'm getting
they hold
better.
on to stuff.
I'm getting
you
better.
are getting so much better. I will say you have gotten a lot better.
The point of telling that story to our listeners was not who won the game, but
but that
the
matters.
discomfort that I experienced in seeing this generational
that's
thing
true.
happening with my dad of I am behaving and responding exactly as he is.
Yeah.
And
I thought that was a really, I mean, that was the greater point, and that was a very self-aware of you. Good job.
yeah.
Good job,
But-
Heather.
But yeah, what I was saying is like, so I come back out at the end, toward the end, and anyway,
It's still tense.
still tense. Anyways, the game ends and Elliot wins. The guy who wasn't trying and was having a bad attitude and all this.
So
He ends
Lucy
up
was in the
winning
lead,
game.
and then Elliot
and
Oh my
Elliot
goodness,
wins.
you
Wow.
guys.
And so he gets up and he's like, I win or whatever, and they walk off. And then Heather's dad is like, I am never playing Quirkle with them again. And at this point, I'm just like, the two of y'all need to like work things out. This is ridiculous. And I'm like, why? And they're like, because they don't play the right way. And which I'm like, well, then you should write some rules that aren't in the rule book because they're not playing up to your expectations. Because it's not healthy to Adam and I have a podcast, and we do some things on there that are pretty awesome. One of the things that I talked about on there is it's wrong to hold people accountable to expectations you've never vocalized.
It's so hard to vocalize expectations that you assume people would know. It
That
is
doesn't
hard.
mean
It doesn't
that
make
it's
it
not the
right.
right thing
That's
to do.
exactly right.
So right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in that situation, I realized that I don't know what my expectations
Yeah.
are. I do want everybody to have fun. It's my dad's last night. Let's enjoy this time. And
What I think is interesting about it, and this is just me talking to you, is I actually think what happens when you do that is it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because you're not having, first of all, they're doing whatever and it's making you unhappy. Then you end up making everybody unhappy. And then no one's happy and you don't get what you wanted from the beginning. And it's
Right.
like if you could release that and be like, hey, I'm sorry, let's have fun. I think you could have had exactly what you wanted.
What I
That
find
is
is
the
so
interesting thing.
difficult about that is, I feel like we are on a season of growth. I don't know that you agree sometimes with that. What's challenging is like, I think when we bump into tension with each other, it's because I don't stay curious. I assume I know what you're thinking, but I don't realize I'm doing it until there's a lot of tension. It's just fascinating.
You're very confident.
It's
Yes.
my ego response. Like you say something, I fill in all the blanks. We've talked about that this season. You say something, I fill in all the blanks. I know the story. I know what you were thinking. I know what you desire. Moving forward, moving on,
Yeah.
and then you're sitting there going, "That's not at all what I want." And then I'm mad. I somehow am mad when I never stayed curious enough to ask.
So what does it mean to stay curious?
Like this weekend, we had a really tense situation that I still don't know if I quite understand where I went wrong. But
Miscommunication.
Miscommunications
Just
where I
talking
went
over
wrong.
past each other.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We're both bold
And
personalities.
the more we did it, the more frustrated we both
And
would
both
be.
we dug our
Yeah.
heels in. Like I know what I'm saying is right. I know what I'm saying is right. We couldn't get past it. And it was honestly silly if you look back. Yes, no.
Well, I think in the moment we were trying to clearly communicate with each other. The frustration was the escalating, continued misunderstanding. You would say something that you thought cleared it up, and it
made
didn't,
you
and
so
I did.
angry.
And yeah, it's just,
We went to, Cooper was having basketball scrimmages. Brian and Eleanor and I went to watch him in the scrimmages. When we left the house, the agreement was, we're going to watch these scrimmages. We're starving. We're going to eat lunch, and then we're going to stop at a store to buy some groceries. A store that's only in that part of town. So we go to the scrimmages, we're leaving, and everybody, I guess myself included, I feel like you had some expectations that you weren't clearly expressing. I think you wanted maybe to eat at a certain restaurant, any one of 10 certain restaurants, but all 10 that you listed, we didn't, none
no,
of
just wanted to eat. That's it.
You're getting it.
Yeah.
Here's like a marriage tip.
Yeah.
Knowing Brian, and this is just
come on,
for
bring it
fun.
on. Yeah.
You're going to wade in a dangerous territory every single time you try to guess what he's thinking. I watched this happen so many times. It's like every time I think this, and then and I even wonder if, well, I think Brian's integrity would probably make him say if you were right, but even that, I think is it offensive to you?
Yeah, I think it.
What do you mean offensive that we think we know what he's...
That you would jump in. Yeah,
it's so tough because I think in relationships with anyone you're close with, the thing that attracts you to them also kind of has a side that
the
can
shadow
hurt you.
side, yeah.
And so it's like, man, I love being around very confident people where I can say and be me 100% and not have to worry about like stepping on people's toes or hurting them deeply. It's like, I want to be known. But the moment that confidence becomes
a weapon
attack.
Or maybe them not listening to you or discovering who you are or really they're just assuming they know what you think.
Oh, and that's
where
the
it's
nasty
just like,
side of this. I don't know, I'm assuming. I know that sounds ridiculous. I'm so confident that I'm correct that I don't realize it's an assumption. And then I get mad when you tell me it's an assumption because I'm like, well, you clearly told me. So Brian tosses out a few different restaurant suggestions. Of course, true to the rest of us. I didn't want to eat at one restaurant. Cooper
I
didn't want to
listed the 6 I thought everyone might like. I'm on Yelp. We're at the top 10 places to go. It's clear that we're, from my perspective, becoming, middle class or upper middle class, very picky. Like these aren't real problems. It's like, man, if we can't just go to Chipotle and eat, and someone's going to have a crying fit, we're going home. We're going to go eat sandwiches
for a week.
You just threw out a bunch of vegetables you were furious about we didn't eat. Let's go home. I'm done with all this. Is just craziness.
Okay, so we are going to go home. It didn't end there, though. It kept escalating. But as I think back about how we communicated or didn't communicate,
miscommunicated.
I know that I didn't stay curious. Like, what do you want me to do? Right. And honestly, the tension was so high. If I would have asked that, I don't know if it would have gone over well anyway. But I assumed I knew.
We didn't go home. You pulled in a parking lot to go somewhere else. And that's where I feel like we started trying to say, man, where are we going? Why are we doing this? Yeah. And that's where it just kind of escalated. Yeah, I've been there. Didn't feel like I had been heard. You were kind of read my mind. And then the more I tried to explain, what I wanted or to be clear, answer your questions, we were just talking right past each other. And that's where we go into deep, not screaming anymore. 10 years ago it was that, but just deeper frustration. I mean, where it's like, we just have to sit quietly for the next 15 minutes as we're driving home.
Is that what happened? Are you able to sit quietly
we
like that?
We did not sit quietly. We talked very tense for a very long time.
Yeah, once we turned around and went home, it was just dead silent.
I was going to say, it could be, that would probably be best. Sometimes I try to solve things way too quickly, and that ends up screwing everything up.
Well, I think we've all been there, where you're in this deadlock fight where you can't...
Mm-hmm. There felt like there was no way out.
Yeah, you're not hearing me. Yeah. I'm keep repeating myself, but you don't understand what I'm saying.
And for us, our heels get deeper dug in instead of trying to find more understanding.
And that is where I do think, I wish one of the things I think I could get better at, me probably above all else, is hitting the eject button and just going, you know what, I'm going to back away from this. I'm not, the problem is that emotions are so high, but even then, just let that whole situation kind of cool off and come back. And I think one question that you have to be willing, and this is, in the moment, it's almost impossible to answer this correctly because you know what the answer is, but do you want to be right or do you want peace?
Yeah.
Because there's never going to be in my mind, there's like some version of the story where all the facts will line up and we can all agree that that's exactly what happened. Then there'll be a clear winner and loser, or who was right, who was wrong, or we can assign responsibility. Yeah. And Heather, it just never doesn't work that way.
That reminds me in school today, that scripture in the Old Testament where they're asking the Lord, are you on our side or their side?
Yeah.
Neither. And he's like, neither.
I'm on the Lord's side.
Yeah. And that is, I don't do that in that moment. I want to, and to be honest.
So rather than being, you could frame that around marriage. You could say, am I on my side or your side, or and really what we want to be is on our side.
Right. Are we in it for us?
That's good. Yeah.
Or are we in it for me? Yeah. And man, when it gets heated, I'm in it for protection of myself. It's not even so much me against you. It's me protecting me so that you can't hurt me.
Right.
It's throwing up a wall so that you can't get close enough to the insecurity in me to really hurt me.
And I want to work it out the moment.
I do too.
Get to the truth. End up, together. But walk through the tension to do it.
I think this season has taught me, which you guys will probably all know, and I didn't know, was that in a lot of this bravado is a deep insecurity I never knew existed. I don't want to be embarrassed.
No.
I don't want to be hurt. And I'll do anything to keep from being embarrassed or hurt. I'll hurt you before I'll be hurt.
I can totally relate to that.
Yeah.
Embarrassment is one of the worst. You want to see the absolute worst of me is embarrass me.
Yeah.
Some of that might be, I don't know if it's coming from the same place or not, but maybe it's the introvert in me, but I can relate to that.
Well, yeah, and I'm certainly extroverted, but I feel that way. So maybe it's personality or family of origin or a combination of a million things. You know what I think is fascinating? You did this when we were traveling in New York, and it's funny to me, but it's also wildly helpful. I don't know if you've seen Whit do this before.
It's going to be good. I can't wait to hear what
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know if you've seen him do this before because I feel like he does it a little bit incognito. But sometimes you're talking and I just want to set the record straight or just add my 2 cents or just...
And he's just like...
He will stand behind and go...
Don't do it.
And it's helpful because even though as much as I still want to, I just go like... Well, if you can see it and I can't, maybe I really should stand down.
Some of it's, Brian and I have a friendship, but it's different than a marriage. And there is so much where, husbands and wives push each other's buttons and all those types of things. And I can see, it's just, there's certain things I know, having gotten to know Brian, certainly not like you know him, but having
maybe better because I just assume.
Well, who knows? But there are certain times I watch the way you talk to him that I'm like, that's never going to work.
Yeah.
Because
it's wrong, but my personality.
It's just never going to work with his personality. Yeah. So I just think you have to, and part of the language that you're using, stay curious. It's like if you would soften some of the words that you use, it's just honestly changing words. You can get to the same thing. Just say, I wonder, or I was thinking, and that could be totally wrong. You just soften stuff and slow it down. I think you'd be inviting his perspective, but what it sounds like is just like, I have the perspective and I'm going to assume what you're thinking. Yes, okay. And then keep going. And I think that makes him feel like, you don't even know what I'm thinking. And so this is what I watch. This is what I watch happen. And I'm sorry I'm playing counselor because I'm not, but.
Counselor hat?
Do you have a counselor hat?
Do I have it? But I watch you
from your house.
It's like if I could visualize, it's like Jamie runs ahead, and then Brian goes actually, and you have to reel her back 5, 6, 7 steps, and then run ahead again, and he just keeps reeling you back to where it's like, well, that's not actually real. That's not actually what I was feeling.
And she's not always wrong. When she's right, man, that's harmony in our marriage.
Yeah.
It is so interesting too. It probably was a disservice to our marriage early on, but I didn't see it that way. But you traveled so much. I have run the family by myself before. And I'm fully confident I can do it. If you can make the money and put it in the bank, I'll care for the children. I'll get everybody where they need to go. And then to hand over, we've talked about this when you used to travel, it would be the day he came back. It wasn't hard when you were gone because there was grace on it for that season. Yeah. It was the day you came back where I had to hand back over the reins to a certain degree, or at least come into harmony with you. And I'm like, we do it a different way. But living 10, 12 years of our marriage that way, and then being in a different season where we don't live that way anymore, it's challenging for me. I like to be in charge.
So if you went back to that argument that you had in the parking lot about where to go to lunch.
Yeah. Should we pass you a hat too?
No.
Okay. Go ahead.
And we all have these situations that just keep escalating. How do you press pause on that?
Man.
That's the $1 million question.
It is.
I don't know.
And say to yourself, what do I want here? And who am I fighting for? Like, what's my value? Whatever is happening, whether it's about money, what's the value that's causing this tension?
And is the value worth fighting for, or is it a value that you learned at some point that needs to be tossed out? Because I'm often fighting to be heard and seen. Good in some ways, not in that conversation. That conversation, I should be fighting for unity, harmony, getting on the same page. But I'm fighting to maybe if I say it a bit louder, you'll finally understand what I was thinking. Maybe if I articulate a bit better.
A different way.
Let me say
Try another approach.
Which I do.
Yeah, I think a couple of things come to mind when you say that, Hera. I think, I would do some things differently. I think in that specific situation, they would all be things preventative to even the disagreement. It's just like, okay, lesson learned. I should know this by now. With 4 of us in the car, it can't be a group decision on lunch.
Yeah.
Then none of that would have ever happened.
Yeah.
But I think there are other times where it's what Whit was hitting on. It's like, you've got to figure out, how do you hit pause on this conversation? Because it's not going to go anywhere good. How do you just say, let's go do that?
Yeah.
If she asked me, is that going to make you happy? You can't lie to that. That's where sometimes things, both parties, I think, would have to lay it down. And it's not about who's getting the last word and the other person be quiet. It's like both parties, you'd almost have to be in agreement on the front end that we need to help each other identify that and have that, shut those conversations down, because they don't help.
It takes a lot of maturity to get there, to say, I want to hear about your values and try to honor them. And
this is so mind-boggling to me, because I'm thinking of 2 different issues that I've shared this past season on Life in Motion and how they kind of contradict one another. So I need to stay curious. I need to ask questions. I need to soften my tone. But we talked about the whole discussion when my parents were coming in town and they're going to stay at the house. And I did soften my tone with them. I don't know if it's a good idea if you guys stay. I got 2 kids sick. We feel like it's fine. And I'm I told them not to come. It wasn't direct enough. So with you, I'm over direct. I'm too direct and uncaring and not curious, and it's wrong. And then over here, I'm too.
So what you're saying is you're just wrong.
I'm just wrong, but I never feel wrong. Places. But I feel right all the time. Just reconciling that.
Well, here's my counselor hat.
Okay, good.
I wonder if you are not really, you're saying what you think is the right thing to say, but you're not really sharing yourself when you say it.
True, Heather. True. Because what we talked about when Brian and I had a tense situation in New York was what I didn't tell him, which I eventually told you that night at dinner, was you hurt my feelings. I felt stupid. And then he's like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I never want you. I would never dream of doing anything that would make you feel stupid. He didn't know that. It came out as bravado, anger, I'm frustrated.
Right. And that is what happens. It's because it's hard to let people in to see the vulnerable part of you when you're feeling really vulnerable.
When I learned this year in counseling, which I was shocked by. I'm always shocked when they start putting up my blind spots. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. But she said, oh, you're very good at vulnerability. In the areas you want to be very good at vulnerability, aren't you?
Wow.
I know. I was just like, what? What are you talking about?
True. Yeah.
And that is true. There is still that inner child in me, so to speak, that is scared that you won't accept me. That, and I don't want you to get too close to that. I've had a whole journey with the Lord on that, realizing for the majority of my life as a Christ follower, holding God just distant enough. I want you close, but man, I'm afraid you might hurt me. So just come this close, but I still have a little buffer.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I thought of something a second ago when we were talking about everybody powering up and fighting and not knowing how to back out of that situation.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is I've not done this yet, but I actually just heard about this, and I've not listened to this podcast, but I saw Russell Moore has a podcast called Tell Me Where I'm Wrong. And apparently he gets someone on there that disagrees with him, and then all he can do is ask questions.
Wow.
He can't give responses.
What a posture.
So I thought, what if you just did that? What if we go, all right, I don't even know how you would get into that game in the middle of it, but if you could just say, all right, all I can do is ask questions. Because a lot of what I'm trying to do is kind of push my perspective over to you. You need to see what I see. You're missing it.
Yeah.
Rather than who was it? Some saint, Francis? I don't know who. Was it? It might have been Augustine, might have been Francis. I think it was St. Francis. I don't think it was. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Seek to understand rather than seek to be understood.
It's interesting that you say that, because money fights are not necessarily a huge thing, but I do often feel like our values conflict with the way we spend money. And but what made me think about that was a lot of times I'm a feeler and I'll share a value with you. I'm feeling like there's not enough money.
Yes.
I'll share that. I'll say, I feel like there's not enough money. And instead of you saying, tell me more about what's making you feel that way, you hit me with all the logic of, well, this is the bank balance. This is, what's in savings, blah, blah, blah. You hit me with all these facts, but it doesn't necessarily address my feelings in the long run
That is the hard part of thinker and feeler language is that my language doesn't connect back to you because the feeling is a value that I don't, but I take it as a logical fact. We don't have enough money. Yes, we do. What are you talking about? Here, let me show you. Boom, 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 boom. But that is, and I still don't exactly know what to do with what feels to me like irrational feelings that are just assertions based on no evidence to go, I feel this, and so am I supposed to act on that or make decisions based on that? Am I supposed to stop the presses, don't buy this or don't go there or whatever? Heather feels like we don't have any money. Is that meant to be like pull the emergency brake? How do I?
But I think
I don't know.
I
that's where I've come into conflict with it. Is like I understand
that
you feel that way, but what am I supposed to do with this?
Well, I think that's the tell me where I'm wrong, or just start asking questions.
It's probably good.
What's happening right now? What am I saying? Or what's happening in our life that's making you feel like there's no money?
It may be for all four of us, but I know for you and I, being understood is a big value.
Yeah.
Even if those feelings don't line up with reality.
As I'm listening to you talk as a thinker, how did you land with all of us? Thinker.
God's grace to you.
But what's interesting is I will fight or enter conflict. You wouldn't say in a logical way, but in a thinker way. Yeah. But I will cover my deep feeling and talk to you only about the thinker side of me, which is interesting. Like, I don't know that it would help you understand me better, but if I could bring some feelings to the surface, it would probably be good for us.
I agree.
But then we're hearing Whit say, you feel this way, what should I do with it? So I don't know if it'll help or not, but
it probably, the more I think about it, is that it's probably just feeling heard and acknowledged and knowing that I really listened to you rather than tried to prove you wrong.
Yeah.
That's hard to do.
One thing you said to me recently when we were disagreeing about something was you said, I don't believe you have impure motives, which is what I wanted you to get to,
and that was enough for you.
Yeah. Then I'm like, okay. Because so maybe I blew it. Maybe I suck, but I didn't mean to.
I do think there's value in I think trying to assess what you really want in the middle of. And I think Heather could acknowledge that I try to do this. Like when we're talking, I'll try, even if my motives are impure, and they sometimes are, I will be like, there is a part of me that's selfishly this, or I am feeling that way. But that's just what I try to be real about what I want. And I think that, I don't know, I feel like that's helpful. And especially like even when, Brian, you were talking about just your response to your kids, there's certainly a value that you're feeling at that point. And so there's a part of me that goes, is there a way to go? Because sometimes those things are going to erupt out, but then to backtrack a little bit later and go, hey, here's where Dad's coming from. Here's what I'm feeling. and then turn and share with them what is going on in your heart that's making you, because kids don't, it's amazing. I'm sure we all grew up with this. You don't often understand where your parents are coming from. You just know, ooh, that pushed dad's button or something happened there. I've had plenty of those times. And they're
not emotionally mature enough simply to even process
to
that.
grasp it. Yeah.
But that's a great discipleship opportunity we have with our kids. It's not about being perfect parents.
Yeah.
It's how do you react on the backside of being imperfect.
Yeah. It's to turn around and say, hey, dad was right. I was wrong there. I shouldn't have done that. I was whatever. Yeah.
As riveting as we are, I can't imagine that people want to listen all day long. So we should probably start to wrap up. Let's maybe just ask a couple of fun questions and wrap up with that. What do you think about that?
Great.
So let me see if I can think of one. Anybody can ask one, but I'm just wondering if you guys thought that year on my birthday when we were playing Catan and you guys were in cahoots to try to let me win because I lose so often, if you thought I wouldn't recognize that. Just
I don't even remember this.
It may have just been Heather and Brian in on it. So we play Catan semi-regularly. We have a leaderboard. We count wins and losses. I think I've won once and you guys have won
where does this question come from?
I was just curious. I was just thinking about it.
Where in your mind did you dig that up a year ago on my birthday?
It just popped in my mind.
I can't speak for Heather, but I did not think you would connect the dots. I thought we could do it subtly enough where somehow you could win.
I won on my birthday. Okay. Yeah. Curious.
You really concentrate and get kind of focused on that longest road. So there's a lot that can happen while the game's going on that I thought we could kind of throw in there.
I feel this way about lots of games. Like you, probably all three of you, are watching everyone play, and I'm only watching myself. And that's kind of a metaphor for my life. Like I'm not like you're wanting me to see you and understand what you're thinking. I'm just really focused on myself. So anyway, Brian, how would you describe Heather in a couple words? Yeah.
Oh man, that's a great question.
Yeah.
You're going to be on your toes in this podcast.
Limit it to a couple words.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm curious.
Wow. What happened on my birthday last year? What were your motos? And describe Heather in 2 words. Go.
Yeah. You got to be ready. This is just how we talk.
Lightning round.
Yeah.
I'm going to say sincere.
Oh. You're going to make her tear up.
Very thoughtful. Yeah, I think she brings the heart into our relationship with the four of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, not just because she's a feeler and we're a thinker. I just think, man, invaluable.
Yeah. A glue that.
Thanks, Brian. That's our.
Thanks, Brian.
I just said she's sincere. She's our heart.
That's our hope is that people really see the body of Christ, the Lord, in our podcast. That they are like, this is a place where I would be welcomed and accepted just as I am. So I'm glad you heard that in all of these silly conversations that we have.
Yeah, I'm proud of you guys. And man, it's opened up things for us. This year, the journey Jamie's been on, man, we're talking about things I didn't know we would be talking about in our relationship and our parenting and our lives. So I love it that you guys get to share that with other people in this way.
Definitely a lot different to have you guys joining us. It was really good. But sometimes, Heather, when we're recording, I feel like it's just us. Like I even forget there's someone in the room helping us and we're just talking. And people will stop me and tell me a story and I think, oh my gosh, how do you know that? And I'm like, oh, we told you. We told you that story. But yeah, it's just the real us with 2 microphones. And for some reason, a couple million people listen.
Yeah.
Million.
Wow.
International listeners.
Really?
Yeah, we've got international listeners. Maybe one, but.
Okay. Well.
So anyway, thank you guys. Thanks for
coming
today.
It was fun.
Coming and being with us. And I guess as we wrap, just stay tuned. Season 4.
We'll probably be out in like a week.
Yeah, just any time now. So anyway, thanks so much. We love you. See you next season.